you know, what happened was like, I performed in that yeshiva on that thing, like just on the table, like no instruments or nothing.
Right.
And then the rabbi, you know, who was very strict, he was into it. He saw like the biggest pessimist or like the biggest like cynical, like he was like, whoa, like, and so they asked me to perform at like their event at Hadara Torah, and I just like got like some local musicians. And there's YouTube footage.
Is there really?
Yeah, there is. It's like Charlie Buttons is in there. I got like this homeless guy outside of 770 who played the keyboard. And we're just in there, and I had these 3 songs that I had recorded.
Right.
And we're doing it, and then literally like some guys there, this spiritual healer, Herschel Lazaroff, Herschel, and he's just like, my daughter's getting bat mitzvah tomorrow in Baltimore. I'll give you $500 to come. I like asked the rabbi, I'm like, I'm gonna get paid, you know, I'm to come. And the rabbi's like, all right, like you can go, like be back by Seder, like the next day for yeshiva. And that's how it started, you know. And like same thing, like you saw me, and then it's just started, like it became a thing. And then at some point, you know, the main head rabbi was like, you're not ready for this. You need to stay in yeshiva. And the other rabbi there was like, as long as you get married. Like he knew he wasn't going to stop me. Like, he could see that, and he was like, get married. And then you can,
maybe that will help.
And then you can do it. And so I was like, all right, got married. Like I got married like 2 or 3 weeks later.
What was that feeling in the yeshiva? Like you're saying, like you're in a fish parking lot, Rasta man chant, 16 years old. And you realize like, this is the feedback, this is the energy, you know, sharing that's going on between me. When you do it in yeshiva for a bunch of guys who've also sort of like breaking down their egos, like they're all in the same space, is it immediate? Like, oh, it's the same thing here?
Yeah, exactly the same. They're all immediately going back to their like pre-religious selves. They're like in a dorm room and like, but it's completely accepted. And I think that actually that was the secret sauce, right? Like that was the thing. It was like, even if you were like a 50-year-old like Hasidic woman in like Williamsburg, right? Like they loved it, you know. And it was kind of like this thing, like it's kind of okay. Like it's not really, but it's okay. Like you listen to Modest. He's like your what's that called? Like your necessary evil, or like your like worst, the best of the worst. Like that will allow you to listen to that. Like the Jews, they need something. Right, we'll give you this.
Yeah,
and then for people, for example, people that were not Jewish, let's say, like all the fans, the majority of Matisyahu fans that are in Nebraska and Texas and everywhere else, they were like, a Jew. We've heard about a Jew. We've heard about this. You know what I mean? And they were like, this is cool. Yeah. Like I can get down with this. This is some biblical shit. Like they're all Christians. They all like, they have some level of like respect for Judaism or curiosity about it. Hasidim have always been like sort of off limits. Like people see them, what's with the hair, what's here. Now you've got a guy like that you can totally relate to, who would be in your dorm room in college, like, you know, and so that was that. And then for the non-religious Jews, secular Jews, it was like amazing.
It was totally prized
because it was just like, here's like, you know, we all grew up in an era where there were no Jewish athletes. Right. So if you were Jewish, you know, you're like, wow, a freaking menorah. Like, I know what that is. Like, so that combination of things was just like, it filled like this hole for people.
Right. And the Jimmy Kimmel appearance obviously was like that in a microcosm, where it was like almost as if, did they book you because they didn't really know what was going to happen?
No, they booked it as a joke.
Right. Our next guest is the most popular Jewish rapper since MC Hammer. We saw him on the news. We asked him to fly out here immediately from Brooklyn, New York. Please welcome the Hasidic hip-hop reggae of Matisyahu.
Van Blended. We made them like the managers at the time, J-Dub, and we were like, he's got to perform, because they knew, okay, you know, they're not going to understand if we tell him, no, he's the real thing, he's the right thing. There's only one way, and they've got to hear him. And they literally heard it at our sound check and tried to rewrite the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know I'm part of it.
And weren't able to, and so they tried to do the same jokes, but they didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. I remember taping it on VHS. In the apartment I was living in, and going to the computer lab at WashU and transferring it to digital so I could like have it on my computer.
Yeah.
It's just.
But what happened there, so like once things popped, right, and it happens very quickly. It's Jimmy Kimmel show and the New York Times thing, and a bunch of like, you think, you know, when you're like, you know, when you're wanting to get there, you think like, if I get one thing, like if I'm on TV, that's it. Like I've done this. If I get, with kids today, it's probably like, if I get, 100,000 streams, then I'm, whatever it is. But you have to have what you have to have is like literally thousands of things happening at the same time. Like the amount of things that were sizzling and popping off at that time across the board, there were so many, right? That it's like, it actually makes a wave, and then like, as things start to really pick up and get going, you enter this new phase of this relationship with music, right? Where you're like playing like every single night, the same songs on airplanes. You're tired, your voice hurts.
They're sending you to radio at 6 a.m.
You're going to radio, and it's all like, you want to do it all.
Right.
This is your shot or whatever.
Right. Now you have labels investing in you, and they're trying to get you back in the studio because now they need another hit or whatever it is.
And you're trying to fit it in between tours or in between shows, and it's nonstop.
Right.
And the physical body is only able to do so much. As a musician, you can kind of push your body to play guitar,
right?
But as a singer, your voice starts to go. Right? So now you're getting into this whole thing. I'm letting people down. I'm pushing myself. I'm hurting certain things. And so unless you have like the training and like this knowledge prior to going into it, and then you can very, very quickly start to hate your music and your life. But you've completely like fooled yourself because you think that this is the thing that you always wanted, like, right? So you're not going to allow yourself to actually acknowledge that,
right?
That like, maybe this isn't what I thought it was, right? Or what I wanted it to be. And so you're just going to keep pushing yourself until you crack, basically.
Every human being would crack at some point if like those are the pressures that come with that. So at some point, did you think like, was there like a cognitive dissonance? Like maybe I ran after the wrong thing? Or did you just say like, I need to figure out how to keep pushing forward? And what was the way you pushed forward if that's what was going on?
Like the big picture, I'd be like, okay, this is what you want.
Yeah.
You want to do music. You love doing this. Like you can't even compare this to a normal life of like what. So this is the reality. But then you have these like moments where you're like, totally devastated.
Yeah.
And those would happen on stage.
Really?
Yeah. So sometimes after a show, right? Or like you're traveling early in the morning, but all that like is secondary to this feeling of being on stage and knowing that you're doing what you're supposed to, like what you were meant to do. Like that is the greatest feeling in the world, right? Like being on stage and you're like completely in your feeling and you're expressing it. Your mind, your soul, your body are all unified, and not just in yourself. Like when you get a runner's high or something like that, or you're meditating, you're actually like doing it with people,
right?
And you're actually the
conduit.
The conduit,
yeah.
So that being said, that's the goal. So if that doesn't happen, if you're not achieving that, then you start to feel like I'm not doing my job, and I'm not doing like the thing that everyone believes in me for, and that's everyone's given me this opportunity. Like they don't just make you like because you want it,
right?
Like you're
providing something to them and they expect it.
Yeah. There can be shows that like, for example, there can be shows where like you achieve some level of it or like glimpses of it, and that might be like enough to be like, okay, I can get better at this. I can like try to do this, There will be times, for example, that I'm like completely sober. You've seen me in the races and like a complete asshole. It's like
very intense.
Yeah. And just like not happy. You know what I mean? Right. Then there were also times where I was sober and I was like really in touch, really tapped in and sensitive and connected and other times. So it's not just about sober or not sober, whatever that means to you. If it's alcohol or weed or hard drugs, or whatever it is, right?
But you're going to that place in your mind, like sober, not sober, or whatever, because you believe that had some influence over.
So then there were times where, like, for example, I wasn't sober, and what that could mean, let's say if I was just like smoking too much weed, I might just get like lethargic, tired, depressed, right? Like too comfortable, right? And that doesn't make for like necessarily like a great performer or artist, right? So oftentimes, like when I would be writing, I would go into the writing process and I would like get myself off everything for that, like 100% clear and clean, for a lot of my records.
Oh wow, okay.
And then there's like there's like drinking. So like if you start drinking, and then you become like unhinged, so now you're having like all these feelings inside about not being good enough or not, whatever it is.
Sure.
And so now if people start to pick on you or like, be like, oh yeah, this sucks, or then you become overly defensive and start, lashing out at people. Now you're like, there can be like a lot of ugly behaviors that you're like putting out there and people are seeing. And so that could be like a form of cracking. Like there's so many different ways in which, any artist can crack, and even one person, like in different phases of your life. Like you might say, okay, well, I have this under control. I'm going to try doing this, but not, in different ways. So
Right.
Eventually, for me, I guess, the main like crux of it all was I got a cyst on my vocal cord, so I couldn't sing.
Right.
And I had some kind of stomach issue. So I couldn't like eat without like really having issues, like not feeling well.
Yeah.
So at that point, I remember I was sick. I had a cold. So like, when you have like a cough in your thing, and I was like going to the voice doctors, like my voice teacher was meeting me there.
Yeah.
And we were going to scope my vocal cords, which means they put a thing in, and they're going to look and take a look. And I'm like coughing and sick on the way. I'm like, it's raining. I'm smoking a cigarette. And I think like maybe I just smoked a joint too, and I like go in there and there's a cyst on my vocal cord. Like I might need surgery. I might not be able to sing again. And I'm like, okay, I walked out of there.
What year was this? About?
Was this 2012 or something like that, or 11 or 12 or 13, something like that. So
Doctor.
I walk out of there and I go like to my voice teacher's house, Daryl, like God bless him. Like I've had like real angels in my life that have been like nothing but there to help me get to that, out of that stuck place or to that next level.
Right.
Like, and some of those, sometimes it could be like a teacher, it could be a friend, it could be a mentor, but different people at different stages. And Daryl was one for me.
Yeah.
And I went back to his apartment on the Upper West Side. He has this like old rent controlled like apartment, like beautiful, big old, no air conditioning. He just, he's like 80 years old, and he gives me his bedroom.
Wow.
Like he makes the bed for me and he's like, this is where you live now. And I moved in.
Really?
I did nothing else other than
you're on a complete vocal rest.
No talking, complete silence, and just doing little stuff. Little light stuff, 20 minutes here.
Right.
And we would do that 5-6 times a day. And I would go to sleep early and I would go to the mikveh in the morning. And then I was vegan, but I had been eating all this like gluten and like all this like fake meat and stuff. And I was like not feeling well.
Yeah.
So I got the stomach thing. So I got into this macrobiotics and I started just eating brown rice.
I remember you're a rider from the macrobiotics.
Yeah. So then it got a little more complicated where I was trying to make things on the road that were macrobiotic, and then I became obsessed with it. So I would only eat that way, and I would like fly off the handle if I couldn't, or so. But eventually, like, so, I went into that space, and when I was in that space, I just kind of got in touch with I guess who I am, and like I just, everything just slowed down. I worked through like the suffering and the difficulties, and everything just eased, and I came out the other side like more in touch, more sensitive, more happy, more like balanced, and that started like a new chapter, for me at that point.
It's beautiful. I remember one show in Sarasota, Florida. It must have been towards the end of the vocal resting, but it was still vegan. I remember advancing. Somehow we had agreed, I assume it was my fault, but knowing that you were on vocal rest, but somehow we agreed that like there was a whole Shabbat thing with the Chabad and all these kids are coming for dinner. And then I like advanced with the Rebbitzin, like the whole mat, like in the crock pot, like step by step, like brown rice, sweet potatoes, like whatever it was, pumpkin, like every ingredient. And she did all of it. And then like all the kids come for dinner.
Yeah.
And you were just like, yeah, I'm not talking. I'm on vocal rest,
Yeah. So I would do these things, I mean, it was
a great show. I remember that show being on.
Trying to find the boundaries and the limits, right? Because like you as an artist, like you're coming to Louisville, to the Jewish community, they're losing their shit. There's no way they're letting you get out of there without like sitting down at a shop
Meeting every Jew.
with 200 kids.
Right.
And you're supposed to be doing that in between shows when your voice is messed up, when you're not feeling social, when you're, all these different things. And you have your shtick, like no matter what, no matter who you become, like you could become like freaking, I don't know, Brad Pitt, one driver, whatever. No matter who you are, what you do, you're always stuck with yourself.
That's a very good way of saying it.
Yeah. It doesn't, you unless you work or make sacrifices or work on yourself. So at the time, you feel the pressure and you don't want to let people down and you don't know how. And so, you either like get taken by everybody.
Right.
And lose yourself that way. Or you become like extremely guarded and vigilant about your rules and your boundaries.
Right.
And so learning how to do that is not like the easiest thing for everybody, right?
Only so. I think it's hard for people who aren't in the public eye, who aren't expected to like perform or, represent something to a group of people.
Yeah.
So I imagine it sounds like, you're constantly making these compromises in your head. Like, oh, if I do this, if I agree to this, but I tell them I can only do it this way, like maybe that will make everybody happy. But then nobody is. Like,
no one does it that way because it's chaos. You're there. You're in the fucking living room.
Yeah. You're there, and you're not happy because they're all over you, and they're not happy because they're like, what?
And you don't feel like a star. That's the thing.
Right.
Right? Like, okay, yeah. Like everyone's like, what's wrong with you, right? You're Matisyahu.
Right.
Like, and like if you don't walk around all day being like, I'm this, I'm that. Like I feel great about myself. You just walk around being normal. And so now all of a sudden you go from like your own just, schmuckdom to like, to like all of a sudden you're in a room with a bunch of people who expect and think that you're something else. So now you have to try to like adjust.
Yeah.
But if it's fake, anything that in my life is fake, like it just automatically immediately results in like immediate depression.
Yeah.
Like I just immediately get sad. If I feel like I'm not being real or if someone's not being real with me,
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So this is the piece that, you're trying to work on. And it's, how do I believe in myself? Like, how do I see myself as Matisyahu? Right? Like for real. Like I have a vision of what it could be, right? And there's been moments in my life where I've dipped into that, in and out of it, right? And so if I can actually see what they see, and how do I do that? Like I have to remember the songs I've written, the words I've written, the experiences I've had, the history, my story.
Right.
Like as soon as you eliminate a person's story, like they say this, like like a slave, right?
Yeah.
Like when you take away someone's history, you take away someone's story, you take everything away from them. And when you are in touch with your own story and your own history, but without being obsessed with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
the fine line to walk.
That's the balance. It's like, how can I use this? Like I want to make people feel good. I want to be a leader. I want to like bring people to a good place. So I have to be able to tap into that Matisyahu energy of what they see, and it can't be fake. So I actually have to spend time like thinking about it, thinking about my life, thinking about my accomplishments, my struggles, all of those different things, and then like when if I can feel like that, you know. But if I do that too much, then I'm just being like a completely self-obsessed, absorbed, insane artist. So there probably are artists that walk around all day being like, I am him, Chris. And they probably only want to be in like public places where people are constantly seeing them, right? Because when they're alone,
Yeah. I once met an artist, I won't say the name, who was at an event I was working on, and he needed a parking pass. So I informed him of where he could go buy a parking pass for the show. And he went off on me, talking about himself in the third person. Nobody asked so-and-so to pay for their own parking pass. I'm so-and-so, you get me the parking pass. Like, that's really how you think of yourself? Yeah. Like, clearly he had a thing in his mind that's who he was. Right. And the world should treat him
according to
whatever that image was. And like,
right. So that's the thing. You have to know, I'm in an airport right now. I'm a normal person. I can't walk around like everyone owes me. I'm in a living room right now with 50 teenagers who think I'm the next Moses or wherever, right? I have to also like tap into that energy.
That is really tough.